I hated this book. It is so good. I hated it so much because I think it's just such a good book. I just did not like this book. The writing wasn't that good. The plot wasn't that good. Hands down, this book was so worth the read. Hello friends, my name is Lauren and welcome back to my channel. So while everyone's situation might be slightly different depending on where you live, generally the world right now, everyone kind of has to self-isolate, stay home, etc. with everything going on. And so because of that, I decided to set myself up a challenge a couple weeks ago to attempt to read 10 books in 14 days or 2 weeks. So this is the video where I'm kind of going over what happened in those 2 weeks, how successful I was, what I read, how I liked those books, etc. How do I word this? I think I read a whole bunch of different books that I enjoyed different amounts, and just gonna make for an interesting conversation. If you're interested in doing this similar challenge thing, it's not really that hard. You just basically take 2 weeks of your time and pick 10 books that you want to read. I will link the video up here if you want to go watch it and you can kind of figure out my thought process behind all the books I chose to attempt to read, but it's up there if you want to get into it. This video is going to be on what actually happened. So to start off this video, I'm going to go into a little bit of the footage that I filmed throughout the 2 weeks of my process, and you can click here if you want to jump to my review and how I actually did. But first, a brief overview. The goal was to read 10 books, and my plan was to read a couple business books, a couple new books I've never read before, and reread a few of my favorites. And I didn't necessarily quite get to all of them. I ended up actually reading 5 books out of my 10 goal that I was trying to hit, but all considering, I only read 5 books from January to March. So the fact that I read 5 books within 2 weeks is pretty solid, all considering. Anyways, so we're just gonna jump right into that vlog footage, and like I said, click right here if you want to jump to the results. Hello friends, so today marks day 1 of my 2-week reading challenge, to which I'm trying to read 10 books in 14 days. I have only read 5 books in this year up until now, so reading 10 books in 2 weeks is going to be a little bit of a challenge, but it is called a reading challenge for a reason. Today I'm going to be focusing on 2 books specifically, which are How to Win Friends and Influence People and This Savage Song. Both of these books are buddy reading books, and for this book, basically we're just trying to read 1 chapter every day, so gotta read that for the day. And as for this book, Yanis and I are trying to plan out a day when we're gonna like video chat and talk about it, so I essentially just have to finish this book anytime before then. But I have been very behind, all considering originally this book was supposed to be done like yesterday. I'm gonna try to read probably a couple hundred pages if I am up to it. So that's the reading plan for today. Here are the 12 books I am considering reading. I'm actually probably only going to read 10 of them, but I wanted to give myself a little bit of wiggle room. I have not quite figured out my reading schedule as to when I want to finish all of these books, but I am pretty excited to read all of the ones that I just showed you guys. I kind of talked about all of them in the video already, so like I said, if you haven't checked that out, you can learn more about them there. But yeah, so far the day is going to be dedicated to reading 1 chapter of How to Win Friends and Influence People, and then reading quite a bit of This Savage Song. And as soon as I finish This Savage Song, I'll be able to jump into other books I want to read as well. I also start Throne of Glass buddy reading that tomorrow, so I really got to read a bunch of This Savage Song today. And that's kind of the goal, and I'll be providing you guys more updates as the days go on. Alright, so I just finished my 2nd chapter of How to Win Friends and Influence People. The 1st and 2nd chapter, they've been good. Nothing like revolutionary yet, but it's only the beginning. We have lots more to go. I'm 10% of the way down this book according to Goodreads, so hopefully the book is saving all its good stuff for later on, but pretty solid so far. And I'm gonna be talking with my friends soon, but then afterwards I'm gonna be reading This Savage Song by Victoria Schwab. I'm on page 47, and my plan, I would say, is to get to page 150, or at least finish like the first verse, whatever comes first, you know, but that's the plan for today. Hopefully it actually happens. Hello everyone. So I think it's been quite a few days since I've last vlogged my process, but I have officially finished This Savage Song by Victoria Schwab and A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. So it is Saturday right now, which means I have just over a week to finish the rest of this challenge. That really means I have 8 more books that I need to read. And I'm currently also reading Throne of Glass, buddy reading this book. We're on track to finish this book shortly in the next coming days, so this is gonna be on my list of finished books very soon. I am buddy reading this book, and I went into this competition challenge thing for myself knowing I'm not going to finish it, but I might just count it anyways because I've read every single chapter every single day that we've planned to read so far. So regardless, this book, doing pretty well. Yesterday I started Harvard Business Review 10 Must Read on Women in Leadership. I've only read the first 2 chapters. I don't really like it that much, but and I don't know, I still have to read it. And the next book I'm gonna be starting is Legendary. Right now I am editing the video of this Savage Song buddy reading thing with Yanis, so that's kind of taking a large majority of the day. I also did sleep until 1 p.m. so that could be a big reason why I'm behind on reading for the day, but I've already read my parts for these books today, and I'm gonna read 2 more chapters in this book, and then I'm gonna start this book. Will this all fit into the day? Don't even worry about it. It will. It totally will. But a quick update for these 2 books. So if you want to hear more of my thoughts on the Savage Song, I have like a full video explaining everything up here if you want to click that. But I did give this book a 3 out of 5 stars. I'm gonna leave it mostly just at that. I liked it, I enjoyed it, but I definitely think it could have been a little bit more enjoyable, but all considering, not the worst. And A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, I really did enjoy, especially towards the end. It was really engaging. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. I'll probably do a bigger wrap up of all my thoughts at the end of this video, but a little teaser of information. It went really well. I really enjoyed it, and I really would recommend this book. Anyways, so a lot of my reading that I'm getting done is either just me sitting on my bed getting a little bit distracted by my phone, or it's at like, you know, 12 a.m. and we're just grinding it out. And so honestly, that's a prime time to read. I'm just saying. It hits different. But that's kind of my mid-challenge update. I'm gonna try to my best to remember to vlog more during this process, but that's the mess of books I've been reading so far. Hello everyone. It is, I don't know what day, but what did I finish the other day? Oh, yes. It was like early in the morning sometime when I finally finished Orcs and Crate. I haven't rated it yet, but it was definitely one of the worst books I have ever read, and I stand by that statement. If you like it, are you good? Are you okay? Anywho, yesterday night, at like the same early in the morning, I finished Throne of Glass, which was much better. Not my favorite thing in the world, but definitely much better than Orcs and Crate. And I just remembered I should probably update you guys, but I'm actually 1 page into Legendary, which is the 2nd book in the Caraval trilogy, and I am very excited to read this because I have been looking forward to reading this trilogy for so long, and I'm thinking of changing my rating for Caraval from a 4.5 to a 5 because every time I think about it, I just think about how good it was. And so I'm really excited to read this. Hopefully I get better at vlogging, but I finished those books, so we're currently at 4 books on day 11, so I only have 3 more days to read before this challenge is over, but I'm hoping to get at least a few more books in before it ends, so wish me luck. I just finished Legendary. This book was so good. And I'm destroyed. Wow, this is the last book of the reading challenge thing that I'm able to finish. It's not close to the end of the day yet, but I'm not gonna finish another book in time. But oh my god, this was a great way to finish off this reading challenge. This was so good. Alright, so we're gonna jump right into my thoughts on everything and how everything went. And like I said before, I read 5 out of 10 books. I will put the little screen thingy here that I post on Instagram every single day, but this is kind of my daily what I read schedule, and so I actually did read quite a few books, and I actually started 2 books that I didn't finish in time for this school, but I did attempt to read them. So I will talk about those as well during this video, but overall I read 5 complete books and a little bit more into 2 other books as well. So we can kind of count it as like 7 if we really wanted to, but hey, it was a good time. So first up, I'm going to talk about This Savage Song by V.E. Schwab. I actually decided to read this book because of 2 reasons. One, I have been meaning to read more of Victoria Schwab's work because I really loved her A Darker Shade of Magic series, and I've had this book by her. It's one of her young adult novels, and I was like, hey, why the heck not? Also, the second reason is because my friend Yanis from Infinite Bookish, we kind of last minute decided that, hey, why not buddy read this together and make like a collab discussion on it? You can click the video up here to hear more of my full thoughts and her thoughts on this book. But overall, it was enjoyable per se. It wasn't my favorite thing of all time, but it definitely, like, it wasn't bad for any reason. If you have any interest to read this book, I would say go ahead because like Yanis liked it a little bit more than me. She gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. For me personally, I gave it a 3 out of 5. It was good, just didn't quite hit that level of greatness I was expecting it to. I did end up reading majority of this book in one night, so most of the details are a blur, but I do remember a couple instances where I was really into the story, and definitely would say that while it might not be my favorite Victoria Schwab novel, it's definitely pretty solid. Honestly, I would just say if you want to hear more of my thoughts on this book, check out that video because we do go into a lot more depth than I will right now. The next book I finished in this little readathon challenge thing is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. I loved this book. Kind of like this Savage Song, it took me a while to get through the first like 50 or 100 pages, I believe, but then I ended up reading the rest of the story in again one night. But unlike this Savage Song, I had a deadline to hit because we were having a little FaceTime call to discuss the book. This I finished in one night because I was really engaged in this story and wanted to know what happened next. So this is a YA murder mystery and it follows the story of Annie Bell, who is allegedly killed by her boyfriend Sal, who then killed himself afterwards. And the way the story unfolds is that our main protagonist, Pip, she is in high school, I think she's in grade 11. She, for a term-long project, decides to take a look at this case, and she has a feeling that that's not actually what happened that night. So she tries to uncover more and more of what actually happens within that murder and starts to find out things people don't really want her knowing. And so I really liked how you could kind of relate to the character, as I am in high school and I kind of have that knowledge. It felt very real and believable, and I also just really enjoyed the mystery element because especially in the last 100 pages, so much goes on and it really just takes the story to like a whole other level. Especially for a debut novel, I would say this book is really, really good, and if you have been wanting to read this, it definitely has my stamp of approval. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. It 100% is like a great story, would recommend it, and I really just enjoyed my time reading it overall. The third book I finished during this little readathon thing is Orcs and Crate. This book was one of the more interesting books I was looking forward to talking to because I gave it a 1 out of 5 stars. I hated this book. I hated it so much, okay? I literally cannot think of one single thing I really enjoyed except for like, well, I guess one thing, but there was like one plot twist in the story and that was it. The rest of it, ain't it, chief? I'm just gonna kind of jump into a little bit of my overall thoughts, but to give this book 1 out of 5 stars, it has to be like pretty bad. And Margaret Atwood, for everything she's known for, I was really expecting a really insightful novel, and actually in the beginning couple chapters I really did enjoy the story and I thought it was going somewhere. But when I finished it, I realized I was wrong. I don't want to go too spoilery or anything, so I'm gonna try my best not to, but there's 3 main characters, and our main character, his name is Jimmy / Snowman. The dual timeline thing was kind of weird and I didn't really like it that much, and it was kind of confusing for a lot of the time as well to follow Snowman's story. Jimmy was the worst character I've ever seen. He is a sexist piece of garbage who only cares about himself, and we see no character development from him throughout the whole story. We see Orcs, which is the only real female character we see. How do I say this without spoiling it? She just has no character development, but like in a completely different way, and it really just serves no point in the story besides to be a romantic interest, but like whatever. And then the only character that's like half decent is Crate, because he's the actual smart one and does something with his life, but even he's kind of boring too because he's kind of really robotic. And then there's many themes in the stories that are just so out of place. There's so much child pornography, there was so much just like dehumanization, and I'm like, bro, what am I reading? And so for all those reasons and many more, I just did not like this book. The writing wasn't that good, the plot wasn't that good, and for many reasons elsewhere, 1 out of 5 stars, would not recommend. That was definitely a flop in this reading challenge. But I also read some good things, not to worry. The next book I finished was Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. And this book I ended up buddy reading with Caitlin from Witches and Demigods because we both wanted to read this series and we were like, just like, why the heck not? So we did. We read 5 chapters every day, and after 11 days we finished this book. And I gave this book a 3 out of 5 stars, and I think she did as well. I did enjoy my time reading this story, almost kind of how I thought I would, because I've heard very mixed things about this book and I definitely had some problems with it, but I also really did enjoy the story more and more as the story progressed. And I do own the whole series and I actually plan to continue on. I am 10 chapters into the second book actually as of right now, and I do plan on continuing onto the series no matter how I feel, because I feel like the series is so iconic that I just need to read it at least once. I did enjoy the plot of this story. I am very interested to see where it goes on further, because this story kind of focuses on a competition, but by the end of it the competition finishes, and I'm interested to see what else will happen in this very crazy world almost. I gave this book 3 stars because there were some very problematic things I found in the beginning. Or not even problematic, just annoying. I found that the main character calls herself and every other character beautiful at least 700 times in the course of this whole novel, which once or twice, fine, we get it, people are pretty. But after that, just please girl, shut up, we get it. You're restored to your former beauty. We don't have to hear about it every single time. But the plot was good, I enjoyed the characters as the book went on, and I would recommend it, I guess, if you were interested in reading it. And finally, the last book I completely finished was my favorite read, and it was Legendary. This is the second book in the Caraval trilogy, and I have to say, this trilogy is 100% one of my all-time favorites. I haven't quite decided on a rating for this book yet, but once I do, you can check my Goodreads. The link for that is down below in the description, but I'm definitely aiming towards at least a 4.5 out of 5. I haven't quite decided if it's a 5. I actually changed my mind on the Caraval, the first book. I changed it from a 4.5 to a 5 because that book, every single time I think about it, I'm like, that was so good. And this one also was so good. And so I'm not quite sure if it's a 4.5 or a 5 yet, but if you want to carry on with the Caraval trilogy, please do. It is so good. One of the main differences in this book versus Caraval, the first book, is that our main protagonist in Caraval is Scarlet, but in this book, our main protagonist is Tella, her sister. And so the author does a great job of making sure these characters both seem very distinct in their own people, and I really like how both of their stories kind of intersected a little bit, how Tella plays such a supporting role in Caraval but does a great job at it, and then Scarlet plays such a supporting role in this book, but it works so well, and I'm so excited to continue on to finale. I'm really hoping it does not disappoint. I don't think it will because I think it's just such a good book. But honestly, hands down, this book was so worth the read. So those were all the books that I 100% finished reading, but I do have 3 honorable mentions. So How to Win Friends and Influence People, I'm actually buddy reading with my boyfriend, and I didn't actually plan really on finishing this book for this readathon because we are reading 1 chapter every day, and there are just more chapters than days in 2 weeks for me to finish this book. But we have made some good progress on this, over halfway down the book, and I am really enjoying it so far. Has some good lessons. While it is different than how I would rate it for YA, I would definitely say that it's a good read and you actually learn a lot of different things. I actually have like a lot of different notes, so there are things being learned and taken away from this book, so I would say it's pretty good, and I would recommend it so far if you have any interest in reading it. The next book I started but did not finish is Harvard Business Review on Women and Leadership. I got about 60 pages of the way through with this book. I had no desire to continue on. It was really boring, didn't really find too much point in it, so I just kind of put it down and was like, as much as I want to complete another book for this reading challenge, it was just not worth it to me to continue reading this one. It just didn't spark my interest as much as I was really hoping it would. And finally, the last book I started was Heretics Anonymous. I have been wanting to read this book for I think a year and a bit now. I've literally owned it for that long, but I'm happy to say I'm 9% done this book. I started the audiobook rather than a physical copy, which makes no sense why I have both. But I'm really hoping to continue on with this book. I'm not sure if I will just because there's other things I want to read, but the concept of this book really interests me because it deals with an atheist going to a Catholic school and his opinions on everyone around him and trying to fit in a little bit and find people that are like him, but he ends up meeting people that have very different views than him, but he ends up clicking with them in a way he never really thought of before. And so I am really excited to continue on with this book and hear the different themes that goes on in it. So I have high hopes for this book. But anyways, those are all the books, about 8 or so, that I somehow read maybe a little bit or finished for this little reading challenge, so overall I would call it a success. I really did enjoy my time reading a bunch of these books, whether I really hated them, mildly enjoyed them, or really loved them. I am happy that I read a bunch of them just to actually read something because I've been slacking lately, but I guess with everything going on in the world, I'm happy that I've been able to get some free time to just actually sit down and read, so that was nice because I haven't done that in a while. I think that's all my thoughts right now on these books, so if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and comment down below if you have any questions on any of my thoughts on any of these books, or if you have read any of them and what your thoughts are, because I would be interested to see if we have any of the same opinions, because I know there was a whole bunch of things I loved and then didn't love so much as well. Anyways, I will see you all very soon in a new video. I hope you are all staying healthy and safe, and yeah, until next time, bye.